From Mamma Mia, welcome to the Spills Watch Party, where we unpack the biggest shows that the entire world is talking about. We are now officially halfway through Emily in Paris season 5, guys, and if I could sum up this season's plot in one word, my word would be confusing. I'm joined by two of the biggest fans, and I would love you guys to introduce yourselves and then give me your word for the first half of the season and how you'd sum it up.
I'm Chelsea Hoy, I'm Mamma Mia's entertainment producer, and my word is like a two-parter. I would say this season is surface level.
Ooh. Ooh. I'm Tina Burke. I'm Mamma Mia's pop culture and social editor, and mine is also a two-parter, and it is whimsical filler.
Okay, we're going to get into unpacking those two-parters throughout the rest of the episode, I'm sure. We are going to be making our way through episodes 5 to 8 today of Emily in Paris season 5, so there will be spoilers up to episode 8, but if you're up to there, you're completely fine to listen to this. We're not going to spoil how it ends. Okay, so we start episode 5 with Emily back in Paris. She's back where she belongs. And it really does feel like she's come home. You know, she goes into Gabriel's restaurant. He says, welcome home. She's on the side of the road with the baker. Someone goes past and says, oh, the French are so rude, thinking she's French. And she's never been happier to be thought of as French. And it feels like this really full circle moment because obviously at the start of Emily in Paris season 1, she's so out of place in Paris. She's from Chicago. You could never picture Paris feeling like home to her. And now it really does. It feels like she's come back from this foreign land. How did you guys feel seeing Emily return to Paris?
I couldn't be happier for Emily to be back in Paris. And I feel like Rome was almost a tool to show us how much Emily has grown, how she's really integrated into French life, and she can call that home now.
And it's mirrored a bit with work because in Rome she was struggling so much to sort of break through, and Sylvie and her were having some like dynamic problems that were a bit reminiscent of season 1. And then this first episode we're back in Paris and like she's got an idea and she saves the day. Sylvie's like, good job, I'm so proud of you, Emily. They have like a really fun office dynamic again, and like that's what was missing because at its heart, Emily in Paris is a workplace comedy. It's got romance, it's got friendship, it's got drama, but it's also about a girl who moved to Paris for her career, and that's what's really fun about it. So it's nice to actually also go back to Paris where she's more confident and more successful than she ever was in Rome.
I know when they initially had this plotline introduced of her going to Rome and it was meant to be her alone in the Rome office, I was thinking, who's she going to have like quippy little jokes with?
Who's she going to hang out with? And then for some reason everyone went to Rome.
Thank God.
And it was fine. But I do think those first 4 episodes might have been stronger if everyone else had remained in Paris, because that is what people like. They like to see the dynamic of everyone working together. And I'm not really of the opinion that it worked in Rome, that same dynamic was happening. It was more like they were all really confused all the time and just having relationship problems and dramas, not actually doing their jobs. So now we're back and everybody needs to get back to their work.
You're like, it's time to lock in, guys.
It's time to lock in. As Kim Kardashian said, nobody wants to work these days.
All right, well, let's talk about some of the key things that have happened since Emily got back to Paris with all the different characters, one of which is the progression of Mindy and Alfie's relationship. Now, I'm of the opinion this has moved from hookup-y to relationship-y really fast. There's this point where Alfie and Mindy are on the street and they're talking about whether or not they should tell Emily about their relationship, and Alfie goes, you know, if you're happy, if we're happy, she'll be happy. And I was thinking,
no,
we're just having sneaky one-night stands a little while ago. How did we get here? Tina, what is your take here? What has happened?
I'm so frustrated, and I know so many fans will be so frustrated by how this has played out. So we touched on this in the last episode around the fact that like it's disappointing that this was an affair-y type, like an illicit, sneaky situation. But the first time around when it was in Rome, you're kind of like, oh, it just happened, okay. But it's the continuation that makes it the lie. It's the continuation that makes it like a betrayal. So the fact that we picked back up in Paris and it's, you know, Emily and Mindy. Emily's so excited. She's like, we're single again at the same time in the city. How exciting is this? Meanwhile, Mindy's like texting him pictures of lingerie. Like now we've entered into a space that like is against your sort of like rules of friendship, right? So now she's not only just like lying to her best friend, but they're also like sneaking around to make sure she doesn't find out either. So it's no longer a case of it being about, oh, we fell for each other and what can we say? And the fact that they both think the answer to this is a communal friendship dinner to tell her
to break the
and
news.
that she'll be so happy for them is so odd and strange and doesn't seem to align for me with what their characters have been like in the past, especially given Emily and Alfie's relationship wasn't that long ago. And, you know, in season 4, she was crying about the fact that he had a girlfriend. So as friends, you would think that she would be more willing, Mindy, to take that all into consideration. But they seem to be really flippant about it. I don't know.
The problem is that this relationship has moved at like light speed.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel earned. I think that's the issue where we haven't spent enough time with them. We've seen them, they've hooked up, we've seen them kiss. There's been really like hot moments, like sexy moments, but we haven't really seen them have a conversation since then and get to know each other in that romantic sense. So the fact that they're going behind Emily's back, plus the fact that I really don't feel any personal connection to this relationship, and like they really know each other and it's worth going behind your best friend's back for this relationship, it's all very confusing for me.
It feels like the extent of them chatting was when they shared that bottle of rosé and she goes, "You're actually kind of cute."
Yeah.
Do you want to see my abs? That's it.
His shirt's really tight.
That's all the depth of their relationship. But it is that difference of a sexy hookup and like a relationship, and they're going on about how Emily's going to be so happy for them and so thrilled that they're together. No, she won't. No one's going to be, because this doesn't make sense. And for me, the craziest thing was singing at the Crazy Horse, "Oops, I Did It Again." That is a wild song choice to be singing while your best friend and you're like the guy that you're sneaking around with, who she used to also date, are the only two people you know sitting in the audience.
Sitting next to each other in the audience.
And to be like, "Oopsies, did it again." No, you premeditated doing it again. You text him pictures of your lingerie and then you went and met him for a hookup. Like it really gave me the ick on both of their behalves. I wasn't very happy with this, the way that this plotline went.
I completely agree. I think they've just thrown two characters together for something different and the chemistry is sorely lacking. Another Mindy plotline that's been going on, which evolves sort of more episode 6 to 8 sort of area, is Nicola and Mindy reconnecting now that they're both in Paris and he has left working for JVMA. And all I could think about watching this was the parallel to real life, because obviously Ashley Park and Paul Forman were together and they had this breakup, and I was trying to piece together whether the breakup would have happened before the filming of the scenes and after, because I just want to get into the actor's psyche of like, were you sad when you had to do these scenes? So Nicola comes in. He has the most awkward intro of the character this season. But yeah, essentially he goes up to Emily and she's just sort of like, "Oh, hello," turns around and just like gets right out of there.
I love that. That would be me if any of my friends' exes tried to talk to me on the street. Bye. Sorry.
Don't want to. Well, I was looking into the timeline, and season 5 of Emily in Paris started filming in early May this year and wrapped around August. And then the breakup between Ashley and Paul was reported in October. So they were probably on the rocks or maybe broken up and it wasn't public yet. So if I were her, I would have been like, we have to do this arc this season. Like, really? We've got to dive into this. I can't just get with Alfie. What did you guys make of seeing them get back together?
I mean, I hate him. It's no secret. Not the actor, make it clear, the character of Nicola. I wonder if the fact that they started dating is the reason they brought him back, because at the end of season 4, he's done her really dirty. He's released her song. She can't go to Eurovision. It feels like that's the end of that. And I wonder if because Ashley Park and Paul Forman were dating, the writer was like, "Oh yeah, we'll bring him back. Like, he'll be in Europe, we'll film," and then they break up, and it's obviously very awkward to return to set together.
Yeah, for me, this is one of those cliche things that they do say about actors, where when the chemistry sizzles in real life, that often leads to it not sizzling on screen, and when you get along in day-to-day life, that doesn't translate into a sparky on-screen energy. For me, they fall completely flat.
Yeah, and I do feel like they only brought him back as a device to later get us back to Mindy and Alfie. I don't think we would have introduced the concept of Mindy and Alfie if it wasn't going to now carry through and be something more in the future. So I feel like the only reason to bring him back is so that there's some sort of tension. And I think the writers of Emily in Paris, I love them dearly, love this whimsical show, need to stop doing love triangles, please, with the main characters. Bring in a side character. Bring in another plot. I don't know, distance, new countries. Who could say? We can travel all of Europe, but I just don't think we need yet another friendship, complicated love triangle between the main characters. I think we could have done something else.
I completely agree. Someone could pick up a side gig, a hobby,
anything. Blurring the lines between real life and onset has been happening since the beginning of time when it comes to TV. It really reminds me of Blake Lively and Penn Badgley on Gossip Girl, Ian Somerhalder and Nina Dobrev on The Vampire Diaries, where
I loved them
loved
so much.
them. And
that
the fandom
chemistry,
loved them.
yes. That chemistry sizzled.
I almost feel like the reason Damon and Elena and became the main couple was because Nina and Ian had such great chemistry, both obviously on and off set. But there's always that awkward moment when these couples break up and then there's like a microscope on you when you come back on set and you're filming. And like we were saying before, you're looking for the little awkward moments, or like if you can pick up on that awkwardness translating from offset to on screen.
Yeah, with Nina Dobrev and Ian Somerhalder, I just remember the focus that was on that. They actually had so much buzz about their chemistry. They won an award for it at the People's Choice Awards. They addressed it in their speech and they were like, well, you know, we broke up, then we got back together, then we broke up again and now we have the most chemistry. And it was such an iconic moment. I feel like Paul and Ashley, that was sort of playing in my head watching them, although nowhere near as, iconic as the Vampire Diaries situation.
Wow, this is crazy. Can you believe this is almost 5 years in the making?
You're right, yeah. But I think what's crazier though, Ian, is that at the beginning of the show, Elena actually hated Damon.
You were hooking up with my brother.
Well, you killed my brother.
Then eventually she fell in love with me.
And then we started dating on the show.
We started dating in real life.
And then we broke up in real life.
And yet our characters are still dating on the show.
It's a good thing it's not awkward. Well, it's a good thing we have chemistry.
All right, another person who's having a really chaotic romantic arc, which I am kind of here for, is Sylvie. So her and her husband, their open marriage, not really working out, lots of fights going on. Now she's on her sort of single girl era, hooking up with a young hot man that she met at the convenience store who happens to be her friend's son. What did we think of this arc? I really enjoyed it. I think it was fun to see her cut loose and go back to that carefree, crazy Sylvie that was first introduced to us. And she's so French and she's so sensual.
This is another just a thing to fill time. And what a thing to fill time. It was a good story. But the fact that by the end of it, she's not friends with the girl anymore. So what was the point of me being with this woman the whole time? Oh, it was to have a funny little big reveal at this party. I did see it coming. I text Chelsea, I think in the scene when the woman was like, show me a picture. And Sylvie's like, no, I won't. I was like, that's her son. I was like, that is 100% that woman's son. There's no way it's not her son. They're talking about his penis. It's going to be her son. And then it was. And you know what? I thought, good job, guys. That was real fun. That was so stupid. I don't know.
I actually quite enjoyed it. What did you think, Chels?
I enjoyed it too. Sylvie, I think, is a good contrast to whatever's going on with Emily. And I feel like they're always kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum. And that character almost acts as a sort of a reflection of Emily in a different way, where Emily is very prim, proper, has everything very together. Sylvie's that free spirit, and her love life really reflects that. So I love these little storylines that we're getting, and I think it's going to be a lot more fun with Sylvie in the seasons moving forward.
I agree. I was really enjoying that new arc for her. Now that we're back in Paris, though, I do want to talk about the fashion, Chels, because last episode we were talking about Italian fashion, but we're fully back in the whole French vibes. What can you tell us about the shift in Emily's fashion sense in this part of the season?
These few episodes, there's a really noticeable shift from her going from Rome, transitioning back to work life in Paris. The first episode, we still see a few remnants of Roman fashion. So when she's in Italy, it's much more bright and romantic and sensual. It's she's on holiday and in love, which she is. And once we're back in Paris, it's back to work, back to reality. And this season, there's a lot more darker tones and colors and a little bit more structure. So a lot of blacks, a lot of reds, and a lot of dark colors. It's also a lot more professional. So lots of power suits, button-ups, ties, which I love. I love Emily Cooper in a bold power suit that's well fitted. And there is something very simple and powerful about a lot of the silhouettes that she wears this season. My favorite outfit is when, I think it's in episode 7, when she sees Marcelo again, and she's in this dark gray suit, and the way that the collar just folds into the jacket, and it's really, really fitted. It's so chic.
That's what you want your ex to see you in when he runs into you.
She's well-dressed, dressed for the occasion. Do you guys have any favorites from the season?
I'm going to go rogue with something a bit out there and say what she wore to Paris Pride. The wig, she was giving bubblegum pop star. I was kind of there for it. I was like, yes, Emily, go have a fun time at Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
That was a real standout. What about you, Tina?
I really loved the outfit she wore. She wore it to work, but then she wore it to the American embassy. It was this big volume striped top and a pencil skirt, I think. She just looked really powerful and very French. It was very Sylvie, And I also weirdly really loved her horse riding outfit.
Yes.
It was great with the tie. Why are we wearing a tie to go horse riding? I don't know, but it was very Ralph Lauren, very chic. Yeah, loved that. Yes.
Love that. It's interesting you say very like Sylvie, because the costume designer this season has said they've made an effort to show that Emily's more understated and she's taking her
fashion cues.
She's taking fashion cues from Sylvie and learning that less is sort of more when it comes to Parisian fashion. And we even see her in ballet flats. Previously she's mostly known for wearing heels, so that's to show she's more grounded and mature this season.
Oh, I love that. It definitely comes through. There weren't any Kangol bucket hats this time around. I missed them, but they're gone.
And that's on growth.
Yes.
Okay, some funny things are going on with Emily Cooper this season, and I don't know how to feel about it. Chelsea, I know you have some strong thoughts. Take it away.
I don't know if you both noticed this, but this season there is a really strong attempt to make Emily more likable, and it's at the expense of the other characters. So this is not an uncommon trope in TV when you're a few seasons in and that attempt to make your main protagonist more palatable for the audience, especially if they get a lot of hate. So it's no secret that Emily Cooper is a very polarizing character. People love to make fun of her. We love to hate her. We love to hate watch a show. That's like a whole running joke that people love to hate watch Emily in Paris. But I feel like that messiness is part of the reason we love the show and why it's really taken off. And these past few episodes, I felt them really stripping her back and kind of watering her character down. And in one way, she's become very apologetic. There's multiple scenes, and Tina and I were texting about this, how she apologizes to Marcelo for no reason. She hasn't done anything wrong. And again, with Mindy, clearly not done anything. Mindy's the one who's in the wrong, but she's the one who's apologizing for reacting the way that she does. And in an attempt to make her more quote unquote likable, they also make the characters around her quite insufferable. They did it with Camille in the early seasons. People loved Camille when she was first introduced, and then they obviously kind of changed her character. A lot of people were not happy about how that character arc went. And I felt a little bit like they did the same thing with Mindy this season, where she was doing a lot of things that were really out of character, that didn't really make sense. She's been a really good friend to Emily in the past, and it just didn't reflect that this season. And overall, I think diluting Emily's character kind of takes away from like the bold, kind of sometimes abrasive charm that we love her for.
Yeah, I think in diluting characters in this way, they do take away what originally drew us to them. What do you think, Tina? Do you feel like Emily has become more likable, or it's sort of an attempt at something that hasn't quite landed?
It's hard because I've always liked Emily. Like, I fully agree with what you were saying, and I see that that's what they've done. And I think that was their attempt at what they were trying to do. But it's hard because I like Emily. I like my women to be complex. I'm fine if she does something that I think is cringe, or that I think, I'm like, girl, I would never do that. That's so overconfident and ridiculous to do in your new workplace. What are you doing? What's wrong with you? But in a loving and kind way, in the same way that I loved Carrie Bradshaw and all of the mistakes that she made. It's fine to love women and love female characters who are complicated. And yet I do agree, I think, because people have these complaints that she can be annoying or that she is a bad friend, which has been some of the discourse around the fact of like what she did to Camille. People were not necessarily loving her as much as maybe they needed to for her to be the central character of the show. So it does make sense that they might have done this in order to like bring back that side of her, or to try to show a softer side of her. So they're trying to bring this like apologetic version of her to life, or this really understanding version of her to life, because she was so dramatic before. But it's like, now it's just kind of unrealistic.
Yeah. It reminds me of the difference between Sex and the City and Just Like That. When the show came back, I felt like it was a version of Carrie that was very watered down, and she was much more understanding and open, where in Sex and the City, the reason we love her is because she's messy and chaotic and sometimes a little bit selfish, but like, aren't we all?
Yeah, and it's obviously like, I understand with Sex and the City and Just Like That, and maybe now Emily in Paris, they're like, but people grow, people change. Yes, of course they do, but you don't have to change the things about them that are inherent to their personality, like Carrie's kind of like, again, kind of abrasiveness, I guess, with Carrie, and sort of like telling it. She just shares her first opinion that comes to mind. She doesn't think. And in the later seasons of And Just Like That, it was quite clear that like, yeah, they tried to undo it. So now it's like maybe they're trying to do it with Emily, but it is weird to watch.
Yeah.
One example that it reminded me of, potentially a little tenuous, but bear with me, is Rachel Berry in Glee. Because obviously at the start, Rachel was this insanely talented but very delusional, pretty insufferable character that everyone loved to hate. Yeah. More so than Emily even, I would say. Like, she was just downright, she wasn't just a bit cringe. She was downright pretty unlikable. And the character got so much backlash, and I think the writers did get concerned that such a main character was disliked so much for the longevity of the show. So then as the seasons progressed, there were these big sort of suffering and then redemption arcs that were, it felt targeted to make us feel bad for her, to make the audience root for her. Like, she starts really failing on Broadway. Things don't go well for her. There's a lot of public humiliation. She's not the best at anything anymore. And I think they took that too far, because they just wanted the audience to want her to have a soft landing and root for her. But they lost a lot of the essence of the feist of the character. And I don't want to say charm, because I don't think she was charming, but obviously there was something about her as a main character that drew you in, because she's a little bit neurotic. And to me, that got watered down, and that could have been a commentary on, you know, you're not the same as an adult as you are when you're a teenager. But for me, the essence of the character got lost along the way. So I'm sort of hoping they return to some core Emily traits.
Yeah, and it might have just been a moment of like this season, again, needing to sort of reset for everybody, and they use this as a device. And now that she's back in Paris, hopefully we will just see her return to being that more like confident, zippy girl who just has a million ideas and never stops talking and doesn't just apologise for no reason.
And one of the times we saw her apologising for no reason was the epic Emily and Mindy fight, beginning with croissants being thrown.
A shoe being, like a platform shoe being ripped off. I thought she was going to throw that shoe too.
No, it was absolutely unhinged. And it was very, very difficult to see Emily apologising when it just did not feel like she was in the wrong at all. One thing it did remind me of is Emily Vernon, one of our hosts of The Spill, wrote an article, we'll link it in the show notes, about fighting styles and the 6 different fighting styles that people approach when it comes to arguments. And this really stood out to me when I was watching this season because there were a bunch of different conflicts. To me, Mindy was being what's called a low blower in the fight. She felt like she was losing the argument and started throwing cheap shots. Emily made a comment about how she shares everything with Mindy, even her apartment, and that just set Mindy off, and she started yelling at Emily when she was the one getting together with her ex. Emily, I think, falls into a bit of the people pleaser category, especially this season. So she's apologizing to everyone. She's avoiding confrontation and fights at all costs. She was just running a lot to avoid talking to Mindy.
Literally running away from her feelings.
Literally, I mean, the metaphor, they've really worked at that one. They're like, oh, you're running a lot. She's like, yeah, like, you just don't want to chat about it. And Alfie was being what's called a bit of a gaslighter, which, you know, a lot of people say is the worst type of argument style there is, because when it came out and he realized that Emily knew what him and Mindy were up to, he was sort of like, oh, what happened in Rome stays in Rome. And I was like, no, it doesn't. You were just kissing on the street in Paris. And he was diminishing the seriousness of how she felt about it as, oh, no, it's just a hookup, when actually it seems like they want to pursue a full-blown relationship. What did you guys find most frustrating about this Emily-Mindy conflict?
Mine was the wording from Mindy during the fight by the river, where she said, like, this is really juvenile. It's okay for someone to have a juvenile reaction to you betraying them. Like, of all of the things that have kind of happened that would have led to this moment, right? Because we don't really see, obviously, we have the knowledge that Emily knows at the end of one episode and then the next picks up here. So, like, according to what they're both saying, Mindy's been apologising. But if this is how she's been apologising, it doesn't seem very real, and there's a lie within the apology. So I don't really think that you're allowed to do whatever you want. We're all allowed to do whatever we want. But I also would not be very accepting of a friend apologising to me in that very insincere way after intentionally lying to me and then calling me juvenile. So I just didn't like the way that it turned. I also didn't think it was realistic. I think Mindy is someone who loves her best friend and who is very kind and is very, you know, communicative. I think they have a really nice adult friendship. This was not the way that two adult women would fight about this, in my opinion. I think if you did this to a friend, and you're the kind of person Mindy is, I don't really buy that this is how you would behave. So it just made me upset.
Yeah. And Mindy saying, get mad, like, don't run away from me, like, I want you to tell me how you feel. And then the moment Emily opens her mouth to say, this is how I feel, and she says, I share everything with you, like you said, I share my palm with you, how can I trust you anymore? Which is a fair question to ask if she went behind your back. And Mindy's not having any of it. Like, that's where she draws the line. She's like, yeah, this is immature, like, I don't want to have any part of this conversation.
But she's also like, I don't want to have this conversation, talk to me when you're ready, and like leaves. Yeah. It's like, well, she was ready to have it. She just told you how she felt. It's very strange.
The other thing that was very infuriating was that Mindy played a big role in Emily and Marcelo getting back together and was very much pushing for it and was saying to Emily, she was essentially insinuating you're quite avoidant when it comes to Marcelo, which maybe there are aspects of that which are true. And she's saying, you know, both times things haven't worked out with him. You could have stayed and worked it out, but you ran away, which she's referencing when Emily left Italy and also when she left the horse riding extravaganza. So at Paris Pride, when she's about to walk away again, Mindy's very much encouraging her to stay. And I just thought it was a little bit rich of Mindy to be calling Emily out for being avoidant when the way that she's handled this situation has been very problematic.
I also really didn't like it because, again, Marcelo lied to her and he betrayed her trust as, like, them having a relationship and a business relationship. Like, he lied to her. She's allowed to not want to be with people who lie to her. I don't understand this.
It's also a weird expectation to set that if someone wrongs you and betrays you, as he did, he was lying to her the entire time she was in Rome. She's right. He was rooting against her. He wanted it to not work out so he could get what he wanted for the business. Yeah. It's a weird expectation to set that she has to stay and work it out with this person. I think it's perfectly fine to cut someone off if they were to do that to you. So it's so strange that Mindy's trying to, like, root for this relationship. Like, no, you have to stay and talk to him. Like, no.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on on with Mindy this season.
Bizarre.
It was also quite chaotic when Luke weighed in and told her, if you get back together with someone after breaking up, you're essentially saying they're the one and you're making this big sweeping commitment.
That's a crazy thing.
I think toxic couples around the world would disagree.
I thought that was a little bit of a rogue comment.
Yeah.
So everyone's really weighing in on this Marcelo situation. Do we think Gabriel has enough time to make a comeback in the last couple episodes? Because he's gone fully AWOL. We've had time to miss him. Marcello's back on the scene. Surely we're not ending the season with a Marcelo Emily.
I think Marcello's a massive loser and needs to go away. I don't understand why we've revisited this storyline. I was like, great, we left him in Rome. Now we don't need to do this again. And now he's a fashion designer. Like, I don't care about this man, but I do think that is the point. I think this is filler in a good way. That's not a criticism of the show. There are filler episodes and filler seasons of some of the best shows on television. Sex and the City season 5 is a great example of that. And what they did in that season was feature Mr. Big in one singular episode and then a couple mentions here and there. And like, I think there's a phone call as well. And that was so that you had the time to fall back in love with him. There was Burger in that season. You fell in love with like different characters, different men. That's Marcello to me. I don't think he's lasting. I don't think he's going to stick around, but I also don't know why we had to bring him back. Could we just get back to the original plot of the girl in Paris with a job and why is she trying to launch a fashion house with her dumb boyfriend?
Yeah.
Sorry. I am a Marcello hater. That was a bit mean.
I'm a Marcello hater too. But I think you're right. Maybe he is the Jack Burger of Sex and the City. Intolerable. And the point is
and we will look back and hate him.
Yes, exactly. So I think we're supposed to feel these feelings of hatred. So then when Gabriel comes, we're like, oh my God, he's an angel.
Absolutely. And with his beautiful new haircut and his job working for a rich man, it's working on me.
He's all tan and everything. I love it.
Something to look forward to.
Something to look forward to.
All right, so this season we see Emily go back to a bit of her American girl in Paris trope and be a little bit more of an expat for the first time in a while because she's really blended into Paris in the last couple seasons. And sometimes I forget that she's a newcomer. Sometimes I'm like, she's Parisian, which I know is ridiculous and people from Paris would be like, don't be insane. She's obviously not. We see Emily be the American girl in Paris inspiration for a big L'Oreal campaign that Sylvie uses in her pitch deck. She uses this inspiration for the pitch on Infallible Lipstick by L'Oreal Paris, and this is terrible, but Sylvie basically puts together a little montage of all the French men that Emily's been with. Somewhat problematic for your boss to do that. And she describes her as kiss-proof when she's marketing this lipstick, essentially saying that none of these men stick. I just thought that was quite funny from Sylvie to sort of be like, I've always criticized you for being American, but now you're my inspiration and you're the quintessential American girl we're going to market in this campaign. But simultaneously, she's also making some new American friends, isn't she?
This was one of my favorite parts of the season.
Same.
Hands down. In episode 6, she meets Jake, an American in Paris who's played by the beautiful Brian Greenberg, who we'll get into a little bit later. And she spends time with his American friends. So they meet in this bar. They do this friends trivia together. It's really, really fun. And I will say it's so lovely to see Emily in this context where she's not the fish out of water and the odd one out. I think we're so used to seeing her being made fun of and laughing about how like, oh, she's so uncultured and she doesn't really fit in. That's really what we've built her character off the last 4 seasons. So it's so lovely to see her fit in and find her place and feel like there's this real sense of belonging amongst this group who understand her. And what I particularly love was during the Friends trivia, I think it shows that, yes, it's funny to laugh about how Emily just doesn't get what's happening in Paris and la, 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 la. But it really shows that it can be quite isolating when people, even these like pop culture references that we would make to each other on a day-to-day basis, not having that and not being able to interact with the people around you in that same way that you would back home. Yeah, I think it's a reminder that, yes, we love to make fun of Emily and we love that she's kind of silly and doesn't really know what's going on in Paris, but it is really hard to build a life away from home and be away from your friends and the things that are familiar.
Yeah, when I watched this, I completely related to it. And I think anyone listening or watching to this who has moved country or moved interstate, which I've done quite a lot, is that it is quite grounding when you find other people either from the place that you were from or just other people who have moved from somewhere else because you're all new to a place. And it does result in that accelerated closeness in a way because you've all come from somewhere. You're not with your family. You're not with what is regular to you. And so you find a lot of comfort and, I guess, rhythm in people that are going through the same thing. And that often does mean that people who are expats and they move overseas are very much in these expat bubbles where you do hang out together all the time and you do become very close and your kids are very close because you're all away from home and you're all sort of out there together working it out. So I found that quite relatable in watching Emily getting to know the other Americans and going to a very American sort of bar just to feel those vibes from home. And yeah, she actually says during the 4th of July party when she is with Jake, and he actually he takes this the wrong way and thinks that she's making a move on him and wants him to kiss her because she's sort of looking at him in quite, I suppose, a moony-eyed way.
I see why he realized, why he made that mistake. Like, I get it.
Yeah, she looked very happy to be there and she was saying all these things, but then she just goes to him, living abroad can be hard sometimes, and it can, and it was really nice to see her. I actually wish we saw more of it, find community in that way and find that bond with her American peeps, and, maybe they'll get together for Thanksgiving, and I would love that for them. But what are your thoughts on Jake, Tina? Because I feel you may have many.
I loved him. I also really love Brian Greenberg anyway, so I would have liked the character regardless. He kind of just, I assume, plays himself because he's the same in everything, and it's a delight.
Yeah, we love him for that.
We love. I have the same opinions on you guys as like the Friends trivia and the event, like being able to go grocery shopping just for the things that she missed from home.
Nice.
It was really sweet.
Snacks.
Yeah, that was really lovely to see. But I think overall it was nice to have just the introduction of some like fresh people into the team as well. Like we've been looking at the same characters for a long time, and this season we're seeing like the Alfie and the Mindy of it all, and like just like the same characters, the same kinds of tropes over and over. So to have almost an entire episode dedicated to her like finding her community with other Americans and meeting new people and us getting to meet them too, it was just really refreshing. What I am upset about is then he seemingly disappeared.
Why was he there?
What was the point of that?
He has
and
about
why
10
are we underutilizing Brian Greenberg?
He has about 10 minutes of screen time.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. After the hype of like, oh, this is a new character.
Yeah.
He's an American in Paris. Are they going to be lovers? Like, what, is he a new love interest?
And even if they weren't lovers, friends at least.
Yes.
Like, where's he gone? What happened? And there were photos of them on set where she's not wearing the outfit that she wears that whole day. So I'm like, was there an intention for something else to happen? Has something been cut? I'm not entirely sure. Perhaps when they were filming, they changed direction, but I just was a bit disappointed not to see him again in the episodes that we've seen.
He was essentially a glorified cameo.
Yeah.
With a few lines. And I do wonder if they filmed a few different versions and then sort of chucked them all on the writer's table and were like, nah, we'll still let him have a bit. We'll let him have a go, but he's not going to end up dating
It's quite
her.
surprising because I feel like the way they set up the relationship was very romantic. So after the Friends trivia, she's having so much fun. He's like, do you want another drink? She's like, yes. They're walking by like the river.
Yeah.
And she's wearing that Friends t-shirt, and the music and the way they're looking at each other. It felt like a meet cute.
Yeah, and it's sort of intentional because then it's like her whole realization is actually the love of my life is my best friend Mindy, and I need to go and apologize to her, and we need to sit and watch a L'Oreal commercial together. But it's intentional in the way they've done it to be like she's having a romantic realization. Wait, friendship is the truest kind of love, and
But
that's
no,
but it would have been nice if we got Brian to be a bit like to have a bigger role in the series, even if it was just as a friend, or even if it was just that these now become characters she has trivia with, or like you said, she meets them for Thanksgiving or for like different American moments throughout the calendar year. It would just be nice to have something new to play with in this universe, because it is getting a little bit stale with how closely we're focusing on the same people every single day.
I'd love to see him back in future seasons. I would love more of Brian Greenberg. There's also just a lightness to Emily when she's there. Like, we miss that. She's always so stressed. There's so much going on. Her love life, her work life. She's just always up here, that girl. So it's just nice to see her free and being herself.
And it would have been nice, again, if they did go the romantic route, to have like we all know she's probably going to eventually end up with Gabriel, but it would have been nice for there to be a little fling with someone who's not working with her, who's not in her friendship group, who's just removed from the situation, and she gets to like be young and carefree and have fun in Paris. That's what we want, a bit more of that going on.
You've made a great point in the past about potentially this man being the Aiden for Carrie, and I would settle for that.
Yeah.
Like the man who she has a great love story with. There's a chapter where he's just a lovely man. We kind of root for them. They have a very serious relationship, and then in the end, she ends up with Gabriel.
That's really what I thought was going to happen based on how many set pictures there were. What was that for?
Okay, but you guys are spiraling into delusion here. He was there for one episode.
And we will cherish that episode for years to come.
Let's just hope that they stay friends. I mean, I think maybe they introduce this character to show that not every single man Emily meets has to develop into a romantic arc. I mean, it's a pity. And, you know, the teaching for her was like, friendship is real love overall. As you said, it's very Winnie the Pooh kind of storyline that we're seeing here. Mindy's piglet, it's the whole thing.
It's just especially disappointing that then that leads into the next episode of, and now I'm back with Marcelo. I'm not trying to just be a hater of this man. I understand why they've woven these plots together. It's important that we then have like Nico and him working together, and then how are the girls involved and how is all of this tension going to come to a head? I get it, but it just was like, if we're going to go back to doing romance, can't we have done it with the bad guy?
Yeah.
I also wonder whether when Genevieve was introduced, that was meant to be, she's got her fellow American, they were going to go out for lunch, they worked together, and then that relationship never really took off. If anything, that character's become sort of a weird, annoying side plot. She's now trying to sell her bonjour bitch hats. She's become another person personifying that American hustle culture and really throwing herself into it in a way that the French really, really dislike. And so I do wonder if they were originally planning for them to have a bit more of this American bond and maybe go for trivia together, because she's sort of been the first American character introduced, and that didn't really take off, and now they've had another go at it, but they also couldn't really work it into the season.
But they also just made Genevieve like cartoonishly villainous.
Yeah, like
They
a
did.
snaky snake.
Like,
She's like,
she's a snake.
Yeah.
It's like she's rubbing her hands together in the corner like, I'm going to destroy Emily's life.
There's
literally
like panning on her face when she's like,
Yeah.
how can I ruin Emily's life?
What can I do today?
We need a little thought bubble to pop up being like, I'm going to destroy her.
Honestly, it just looks like that every time you see her face. She's like,
Yeah.
But the real important thing that I think we just have to say before ending is that Party in the USA played during the US
gorgeous.
party, and that was really important. I mean, nothing to unpack, but it was important.
Leaving that out there.
Yeah, I loved that Miley Cyrus was like, of course you can have the rights to this song. Here
She's
you go.
like, I'm engaged and I'm feeling generous.